What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Atheist Roundtable. And this is Tart Live. I am your host, Oz, and we got Ben G.
What's up, Oz?
Bruce Lee.
So happy, Bruce Lee, dude! Awesome track here at the beginning.
I don't know who's spinning bars though. I don't know who that is. But what's up, Ben? How you been, man?
Hey, I'm doing great. Just had a busy week of work. I've been reading some on my YouTube, the Ben G SE. I've been reading some classics, just trying to learn more and more and more.
So what you've been learning though is that we don't be knowing about nothing though. That's what you've been learning.
Honestly, I think that sums it up pretty well. The only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing. So in reading some of Plato's the
Uncle Clyde.
Yeah, Uncle Clyde. Yeah. So if you're interested in watching me stumble over the names of some of the classics, that's where you go for some of that.
No, and Ben has had some excellent videos on his page, and it's just funny because for those of you that are familiar with our TikTok characters or pages, you know that the Uncle Clyde character has been popular, and he says all the time, "You don't need to be knowing about nothing. you don't know shit."
Ooh, that gets me. Yes. Awesome.
So Ben, have you taken a second or two to check out the website here in the last day or two?
Dude, the website massively updated. Pasta Mike has done an excellent job setting it up. It looks beautiful up top. Hey, and if you're interested, if you're watching this after the fact, yeah, there it is. There's the round table itself. That's where we are all actually sitting right now, is around the internet. And if you go there, and if you're a theist or somebody who's interested in sitting at the round table with us, you just go to tart.live, and at the bottom it says drop us a line. And all you do is enter in some information there, hit send, and then Oz, I think you get those messages directly, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, and then we set up a time. And in fact, our guest tonight, this is how our guest tonight got in touch with us.
That's
so
right.
It's possible.
Yep. And so if we go to the podcast content and we go there, we're going to see that we have updated that as of, I think it was either yesterday or today that got done. We have some of our newer content on there and some of the classics. But as you scroll down, you'll see that we have a new little section and it really digging into where Pasta goes in and cuts up the SE versions of our episodes or sections of our live broadcast. So it's really cool if you want to go down there, you want to get into the that part of what we do in the SE and what Ben really focuses on. Now we have a whole section down at the bottom that's dedicated to the SE chop ups of our videos. So Ben, how you feel about that, man? That's a new addition.
Dude, that's really good. And if anybody's unfamiliar with SE, that stands for street epistemology. And what that is, it's a polite way of digging into the reasons people feel they have for the beliefs that they hold. And it's really exciting when you get to apply it to yourself. And, you can talk yourself into circles. I strongly recommend watching those videos. Searching street epistemology on YouTube, finding other people practicing, and then going to streetepistemology.org, I believe, or .com, punching it into Google and finding the original website where you can get a lot more information.
Yeah, and that's we I think we're a hybrid, of that because it's different when you're doing it online, a little different. I think we're a hybrid, but I think we've found our definitely found our pocket or our niche. But as far as the schedule is concerned, just very, very quickly, obviously tonight we have Colton, which Ben was talking to via social medias, and they had a conversation. Now he went through the website and he's on, like Ben said. And then tomorrow we have Alex, which was on our channel with a debate with Adam Rich, probably 3 weeks ago now, something like that. So he'll be on doing his own episode with us. And then next weekend we have on Friday I'll be with Objectively Dan on his show, and then he's coming back with us a few weeks after that. He'll be back here, and then the one that I know Pasta and I are really excited for is on the 21st. Jesus Unfollower. He has his own website and YouTube and all that. Check him out. We'll get into that later, but that's going to be a really awesome weekend for everybody involved. So I will say no more about that. We have an exciting guest tonight that that we want to get on screen here so we can start to dig in, and he doesn't have to sit in backstage and listen to us talk. So Colton is our guest for the evening, and we'll bring him here on screen. Colton, how you feeling, man?
What's going on? I'm all right. Thank you for having me on the show. I've been looking forward to it.
Good to have you. And like I said, I know you and Ben started this dialogue a few weeks ago. I believe it was on TikTok. Is that right, gentlemen?
Yep.
Yeah.
We reached out to each other and had some good conversations. I don't think as productive as it will be tonight, but we made our little friendship, and looking forward to having a productive one tonight for sure. So.
Yeah, I don't remember the specifics necessarily of exactly how it began, or even really where we left off. I know it's been 2 or 3 weeks, so we'll kind of start fresh almost.
Yeah. So Ben,
and I think I've made some leaps recently, so I'm ready to have it, man. I'm ready to have all the epistemology you got. So looking forward to it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Ben, Colton, the floor is yours. Chop it up, guys.
All right. Thank you, Oz. All right, Colton, I'm sure we'll get you. Yeah, there you are. So give me, to the best of your recollection, like what did we discuss originally? And then what are some of those, I guess, leaps and bounds that you've made recently?
Well, I think last time, so we were talking over TikTok, over direct messages, and you were, doing your little street epistemology. And I think I was being a little closed-minded. I said, I don't think I would stop believing in God no matter what. And that's unfair to you, and that's unfair to other people as well. So for me, being a Catholic, I think there's good evidence to support that there is a monotheistic transcendent being. There's good evidence to support that Jesus was crucified and resurrected, and with those two combined, right, you get the Christian God, the Abrahamic God. And also I'm a Catholic because I fell in love with Mary, the mother of Jesus, who has played a super important role in my life personally, and in many lives of Catholics. And I think with all those three combined, you get me, you get Catholicism and the Catholic Church, and I believe it to be the fullness of truth. So there's good evidence, and I put that faith into that evidence that's already there, and that's my belief basically. So. Okay,
and are you like willing to continue, or maybe almost kind of start over that dialogue, and it'll be kind of a continuation, but we could just kind of like start right from the beginning. So I'm kind of playing this like neutral, like I'm not going to give you a whole lot of pushback or like debate right here necessarily, but just kind of digging into how you got to that conclusion.
Of course, let's do it.
Yeah. So the conclusion then that God exists. What are your reasons currently for holding that conclusion?
Well, I think the best reasons would be metaphysical and philosophical arguments. Because the definition of God, the Christian God, is of course outside the realms of the material world and the scientific world, and I think you have to look at it from a metaphysical and philosophical standpoint. So I mean, I have some points that I wrote. It'd probably take me like 10 minutes to get through. So I don't know what the plan is, but I do have evidence for that if you'd like to hear some point tonight. So
I guess one quick way I suppose to think about those arguments is that if you hadn't discovered those arguments like at all, would you still believe in God? Like just in terms of if you didn't know about the arguments, or even let's say if I could disprove all of them, or like I'm not saying that I could, they may very well be convincing. If I could disprove them, and this is a way for me to know whether or not it's even productive to go down that road. If I could disprove them, what would that do to your confidence that God exists?
Well, I'll give you this. I'll tell you, if you're able to take away the Marian apparitions, right? Take away the whole entire aspect of Mary in my life. If you were able to take that away, and if you were able to somehow prove that the universe is eternal, that essentially doesn't need a cause, with those two things, I think it would be very hard for me personally to believe that there is a God. I'll give you that. I don't know if that answers maybe your question, but I think that's the best explanation I can give you.
Yeah, that's definitely a lot to chew on. Let me consider real quick. So are you saying that, is it Mary's apparitions, and in what way do Mary's apparitions demonstrate God to you then? Like, is that the reason then? Or another way to phrase that, like, what's the connection between the apparitions and God's existence?
Well, I mean, God has revealed himself through Mary. And the
Okay.
fact that Mary is the mother of Jesus Christ, right? I mean, there's different religions, right? You know, you might have, you know, your polytheism. You might have, you know, for example, Islam, who believes in Allah, who doesn't believe that Jesus is God, right? Through Mary, God has revealed himself that Jesus Christ is God, right? That the Christian God is the God that's out there, if God does exist. So I think the Marian apparitions, you know, would be more of a personal type thing, but I feel like they're very persuasive in the fact that these apparitions, you know, are based essentially on science, and a lot of the Marian apparitions is, of course, they're deemed miracles by the Catholic Church, and of course, I don't want to say that the lack of, you know, scientific explanation all of a sudden leads to God, you know, and that's not what I'm saying, but I feel like maybe, you know, Marian apparitions outside of science, it's pointing to something divine. And you have to weigh the evidence and decide for yourself. Is it the Christian God, or is it maybe just science that we haven't really understood yet?
I think one place where go ahead.
I just wanted to say, I do want to say that you know, there's different types of revelations when it comes to God, and at least, you know, that's what Catholics believe, or Christians in general. And the Catholics believe that one of the revelations, the personal revelations, have been through has been through Mary. So that's what I want to say.
Personal revelations are through Mary.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me ask this: and again, I like to use this kind of format of question, right? So, before I do that, let me ask real quick: what is your confidence level at this point? Are you 100% certain that God exists, or do you leave room for doubt? What does that look like for you?
I don't think anyone could be 100% sure of anything. You know, I mean, to say that I can be 100% sure that the external world exists, you know, that the interactions, you know, between you and I is not a result of mad scientists probing at my brain right now. Like, I can't prove that. Right. So I can't be 100% sure of it. Yeah. But so I would say, when it comes to God, I would maybe give him a low A. I'd give him like a 90 to 95% confidence. And I think that the rest of my belief in God is based on faith, but I'm putting that trust into the evidence that's already present.
Oh, so are you saying that, are you saying then that you are actually at 100, but you've got a 90 to 95% based on evidence?
It's, that would be hard for me to say, because, I mean, again, I can't be 100% sure. I can't prove God's existence. I can't show you, you know, God, but I would say, you know, I wouldn't say I'm 100% confident, but I say maybe what's lacking would be made up by faith. And I think a lot of people, or at least a lot of, you know, followers of God or other Christians, would maybe agree with me in the fact that there is present evidence, but, you know, maybe it might not be enough for other people right now. But, you know, why I do follow God is that there is evidence, and I put trust in that evidence, and maybe the room that there is maybe a little bit of doubt, I think makes up faith makes it up, I would say.
So what piece of evidence then? Is there any piece of evidence that would lower your confidence? So like that 90 to 95, that's based on evidence. If that's what you're saying, is there any piece of evidence then that if you were to find were untrustworthy, is there any piece of evidence that would lower your confidence if you lost that?
So is this kind of like the same question you were asking me earlier? Like, if there was something that you could maybe disprove or take away from me, it would make me doubt even more?
So yeah, if the case is that you're doubting, like if you have a 5% doubt that it's true, is there anything that would increase, I suppose, that number of doubt, or decrease the confidence?
Well, first of all, I think it's good to doubt. I think without doubt, one can never change. So awesome. I think doubting is very important when it comes to, you know, even non-believers. I think, I mean, of course, doubting is very important, but even with Christians, I don't think, you know, if you don't doubt, then I don't think you can understand God's true revelation. So with that being said, again, like I said earlier, like I stated earlier, if you could prove to me, right, if you could prove, you know, if science could prove that somehow the universe was eternal and didn't need a first cause, then of course, I mean, it wouldn't give me much of a reason to believe in God. And also, if you could tell me that, or disprove that every single or prove to me that every single Marian apparition was a hallucination, then there would be no reason for me to believe in God. But there's evidence to support otherwise, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
So really, I mean, the person just has to weigh the evidence and decide for themselves what's more probable. Like I said, you can't be 100% sure of anything, right? So one has to decide for themselves what's more probable. Does God exist? Is it more probable that God exists, or less probable? And I'm putting faith in evidence that is present that God does exist, because the evidence is pointing to it. Where it's more probable that God does exist.
You just used an interesting phrase there, faith in evidence. What can you explore that a little bit? What does that mean?
Well, like I was saying, I'm putting faith into the evidence. So let me give you an example. Maybe I feel like everything needs a little bit of faith. Would you agree maybe with that statement?
Can you give me an example of something that maybe I wouldn't think needs faith, and then describe how faith is in that?
So according to the skydiving like association, I don't know the actual name, 99.99% of skydivers survive their fall. Okay. So let's say I take you up on that plane, right? You're hanging on the edge of the plane, looking down 2 miles below. You're seeing the clouds. You're a little nervous, right? Would you put faith that you are going to survive? I mean, you need a little bit of faith, right? You're a little nervous, right? Even though the evidence is there, it's almost 100% sure you are going to survive. You still need a little faith, right? You still need that kind of a leap of faith. I wouldn't say blind faith, because it's based on evidence, but you still need faith to trust that evidence.
And so
I think that's the best example I'd give you.
So I'm listening to you describe faith there, and I know I'm looking down. I like to write things so that way I can come back to certain ideas.
Of course. Go ahead.
Are you saying that faith is the trust you have, which helps you push into making a decision? So I think about if I could describe that real quick, I think about if I was to go up in skydiving, the statistic that 99.9% of skydivers survive, that would be very calming for me, with the knowledge that it's still possible that I could die, right? Yeah. So,
but you'd still be nervous though, right? If I asked you, are you nervous? I mean, what would you say? I mean, most likely you would be a little bit nervous, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm not sure if nervousness has to do with the claim that I'm going to survive the fall. So if I was to say, I am 100% certain I will not die, I would say maybe that would take faith. Under my understanding of the word faith. Now, if I said I have a reasonable confidence that I will not die based on the statistics, I don't know if faith is the way I think about faith is necessary for that.
So for me, I think faith is for a Catholic, in a more maybe traditional theological definition, would be just putting trust into something, right? If God does exist, I mean, you have faith in him. Like maybe you would have faith in a friend. You know, like I have faith that this person is going to show up. All right. I mean, I have faith that my dad is going to come back from the store. He went away to get some milk. I mean, I have faith that he's coming back. Right. Yeah. I mean, that's to me, that's what faith is. So if God does exist, I'm putting faith in the evidence that is present, that he has revealed to us that he does exist. So I think that would be more of a Catholic definition of faith.
Okay. And so I guess I'm trying to understand, because I think sometimes what happens is that we use two different. I want to make sure that we're being consistent with the way that we apply the word faith. I guess moving forward. So I can say that I trust that the evidence shows that I should survive a fall from when I'm skydiving, right? So I would say that I trust that. I guess I'm wondering, what role does, to bring it back, what role does trust have that God exists? Like, what percentage? So for instance, if we were to say that you didn't have the Marian apparitions, and if I could prove that the universe was eternal, would you still trust that God exists? If I could prove those two things,
it would be very hard, because essentially there would be no reason for God to exist if the universe was eternal. So of course I'm not gonna believe in God if the evidence points otherwise.
Could I find evidence and say that I trusted another religion, and say that, okay, like I'm going to trust, I don't know if you fit this category, like fundamentalist Christianity. If I said if I have trust that the Noah's flood occurred based on the evidence that the Bible says it occurred, Would I be just as justified in that belief as you are, I suppose, maybe in the Marian apparitions?
No.
Why not?
Of course not. Because there's no evidence that Noah's flood ever did exist.
So I guess I just did a debate with Adam Rich, and he's I don't know if he would call himself a fundamentalist Christian, but he believes that the flood is a fact. And he actually presented good bits of evidence, or that he felt supported the flood.
Now, and don't get me wrong, I've heard all of it, right?
Okay.
I think Noah's flood maybe did happen in some type, but the Catholic belief of the Noah's flood is kind of open to interpretation in a sense, right? Like it could be literal. I mean, it could be maybe a local flood, right? When it talks about how the flood went over the earth in the original Hebrew of Genesis, right? The word that translates to earth can also mean land, right? So the Mesopotamian authors could have meant that it was a local flood, right? But I think what it is more of a metaphorical meaning, right? The fact that the Noah's flood represents more of baptism, right? Baptism saves, water saves. What saves Noah and his family and all the animals, right? It was water, and that's what stayed in the Bible. The water saves Noah. And in the same sense, when we're baptized, we become a part of Christ. We become part of that ark. And in a sense, we are saved. The Noah's flood cleansed the earth of the muck and the dirt. In the same sense, when we get baptized, we are cleansed of that dirt upon our souls, that original sin, and we become united with Christ. So that would be more of a metaphorical interpretation of Noah's ark, according to the Catholic Church.
And I guess to bring it back, I think my point of bringing the flood up, or the question becomes, could I have trust then that, and it doesn't have to be the flood. I can say maybe the Hindus are actually literally correct, that Ganesh and is like a real god, or the Greek Roman pantheons are correct. Could I not say that I have evidence, that lightning comes down from the sky, and then I use trust to make up the rest of my belief that Zeus is God? Would I be just as justified in making that belief based on, I have evidence, and then I'm using trust to get to my conclusion?
Well, I don't think so, right? Because science disproves that, right? We know how lightning is formed, right? We know how thunder is formed. We know that molecules make up the sky, and a certain different type of molecules interact with light and create blue. Like, we know that's what science tells us. So to say that we would be justified in saying we believe in Zeus because he's the god of thunder, the sky, and lightning, well, science disproves gods, right? Lowercase g. But in a sense, like you and I know, right, the Christian definition of God is that he cannot be, disproven by science, or even proven by science for that matter, right? So I would say, no, you're not justified, because science can disprove Zeus.
It's interesting. If I made the claim that, well, we can't disprove that Zeus exists, right? We can't prove that Zeus doesn't exist. I'm wondering, what then is the? I'm a little bit lost.
Would you be implying that Zeus is all powerful?
Does being all powerful have? Is there a connection between the claim that a god is all powerful and that God existing? Is there a connection there?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think the main reason why I'm not, a believer in polytheism is the fact that essentially they would contradict each other's power. I mean, that would be one of the reasons why. It's like we have constants in this universe that don't change, right? There's no manipulation of it, right? So a lot of the stories for mythology and that kind of stuff, right? Like they're sabotaging each other, right? So maybe the constants would change if there were, many gods or different gods. And, if you're talking about how the universe was formed, right? I mean, in different polytheisms, I mean, they would contradict each other. For example, like in Hinduism, I think there's 3 different gods of the universes, right? One that created the universe, one that maintains the universe, and one that will destroy the universe. Well, that contradicts each other, because why can't the one that created the universe maintain it and destroy it, right? So they're not all powerful, right? So for the universe to exist, there has to be an all powerful cause. So yes, I would say that has to do with it.
And the idea that we cannot prove that the universe is eternal.
Well,
I
I'm not
guess
saying we
I'm trying
can't
to,
prove it, but I'm saying there's good evidence to believe that it's not.
I guess one of my ideas then, I'm trying to understand, because if you're saying that you have evidence and you have trust, if I can use those two parts and come to an entirely different conclusion, how confident can you really be that the method that you're using, evidence plus trust, can lead to certainty of 90 to 95% that God
Well, I mean,
exists?
it's not 100% certainty. It's just a type of confidence.
How far would your confidence drop if you were to find good evidence that the universe didn't need a cause?
I mean, then it would be not God wouldn't be necessary if the universe didn't need a cause. So I mean, I wouldn't believe in God. I wouldn't believe in God because
Okay.
if the universe is eternal, then it didn't need a cause.
Okay.
It's always been here. So why not be a pantheist? Or
Hmm.
why not be someone who believes that like we are intertwined with the universe?
How certain are you that the universe has to have, for instance, so how certain are you then that the universe is not eternal or could not be a natural process?
There's evidence to believe that the universe having a beginning is more probable than the universe being eternal. That's based on science.
So how
Right?
how
That's based
certain then,
on
based on that probability, how certain are you that the universe has to have had a cause in the sense
well, I
that
mean,
you mean?
I'm not a physicist, right? So maybe according to maybe Stephen Hawking or Alexander Vilenkin or other mathematicians and physicists, they're very confident that the universe had a start. So of course, I'm not going to dive in and try to figure that out for myself. I'm going to listen to what the the professionals have to say. And if the physicists have to say that there is a start to the universe, okay, then I'm going to say, then why is there a start to the universe? Right? If there's a start to the universe, essentially that means that it didn't have to exist. Would you maybe agree with me on that? If there was a start to the universe, then it technically really didn't have to exist.
I'm not sure. I have
Okay.
I'm very very unknowledgeable about it.
I know. You're asking me questions. I don't want to turn it on you, but
That's
I
fine.
think that's another one of the metaphysical philosophical arguments, is the fact that the evidence leads to that the universe did have a start, and if the universe did have a start, that means that it wasn't necessary, and if it's not necessary, then why is there a universe? So there is good scientific evidence, right, that the universe did have a beginning, and I'm trusting that scientific evidence, and I'm trying to find, well, why did it have a beginning, right? Because we know that it can't be caused by science itself, right? The scientific laws that make up the universe can't actually cause the laws that make up it's a contradiction itself. So basically, there's two different type of phenomena in the universe: scientific and personal. If it's not scientific, then it has to be personal. So science may explain how, but doesn't explain the why, and that's essentially what I'm trying to get at, is that there's good evidence to believe that the universe had a start. And because of that, that's one of maybe the arguments for God. But that's just maybe one single argument out of, a whole entire list.
All right. Well, thank you, Colton, for participating in that. I think our audience surely got a lot out of that. So I appreciate it. Oz, what's up?
Thanks. Thank you.
What's up, Ben? What's up, Colton?
Hey.
Great conversation, guys. And that's when we'll keep going, and who knows, maybe we'll reconvene and do this again. But what we want to do now is intro the murderous one, Murder Shed Steve, for Q&A, and for all of our people that are listening and viewing right now, start popping your questions into the comment section for Colton, Ben, myself, and we will rock and roll. So where is the murderous one?
So it's time for Q&A with Murder Shed Steve.
Wait. Can you provide evidence that a God exists? Whoa. Oh, well, hello, everybody. Hey, where's that Oz guy? Ah, there he is. How's it going, Oz?
Hey, man.
So-
I'm just enjoying the show.
Hey, I got a quick story for you. I don't know if I've told you this one before, so stop me if I have. There was a rabbi, a priest, and a imam that walked into the murder shed. Have you heard this yet?
I'm interested. I'm intrigued. No, I
Yeah.
haven't. Go ahead.
Okay, so I had the three of them in here, and they were all discussing their beliefs and which one's right and which one's wrong. The rabbi said, his is the oldest, so it's true. The pastor said that his fulfilled the prophecy, so his was true. And the imam said that his was more scientifically sound, right?
Okay.
So eventually, things were getting heated. It was getting crazy. So what I ended up doing was I said, hey, guys, we can find this out right now. But I still haven't heard back from any of them. So I don't think we really settled it.
And I'm gonna go out on a ledge and assume we probably won't hear from them, Steve.
I'm still waiting. We'll have to see.
Oh, God, them damn pipes. Them damn pipes.
It's only one. Hey, and everybody, don't forget to leave your questions in the comments. Now, Ben G, that was a nice little line of questioning you had there. Good job.
Hey, well, thanks to Colton for the responses and the thoughtfulness, and that's what it's all about, is that mutual respect.
You know what? It's funny. I was talking to my buddy Jaws Balls. You might have seen him in the comments earlier.
Uh-huh.
And he said that if it wasn't for all the God nonsense, he would become a Catholic priest.
Why is that?
Dude.
You know what?
Dude, why, man?
Hey, that's just what he said. I'm just making a quote. That's all. Sorry, Colton.
I mean, wouldn't there have to be a God if you were a Catholic priest? I mean, like, come on.
Well, and
Whoa.
that's why he's not.
Oh.
Okay, got it. I mean, so I have to prove to him that God exists first, and he'll be my priest, man. I guess. No.
Hey, yeah, maybe you guys can start a church together. You'll have to hit him up. He's in the comments.
All right.
Sounds good, man. After the show.
Yeah. So I have a question from Todd. How did you determine our local presentation of the universe isn't just a small bit of the larger cosmos? How did you determine everything had a beginning?
Okay. So I think he might be talking about some universe theories. Maybe he's referring to the cyclic universe theory, where that basically, like, the universes have an expansion and then a contraction and then expansion anew. And there's good evidence to not believe that, right? So I'm talking about how the Big Bang was the start of the universe, right? And before the Big Bang, there was essentially nothing. And Alexander Vilenkin and Stephen Hawking and physicists alike agree. But why this cyclic universe doesn't really work, and Alexander Vilenkin studied this, is the fact that for it to work, then it's based on assumption that the universe would the universe that would be created would be a bit larger than the former, because according to the laws of thermodynamics, it would essentially be destroyed and be a featureless blur if it weren't. So it's merely based on assumption. And even if there was a universe that created ours, you have to ask the question, what created the universe that created ours? So I don't know if that maybe answered a little bit of his question, but that's the best answer that I have for it right now. So,
well, whatever answer you got is what he's looking for. So I think you nailed it.
Yeah, we want your ideas. That's what makes it, I guess fun.
I think if I had more time, I'd give a pretty detailed response. But
sure. No, that's fair. So Samuel Doolittle in the comments is telling me to throw my pipe. You know what? I did do it, but I'm going to do what I damn well please, Samuel. Okay?
Yes, Samuel, do nothing.
Hey, he does a little.
He does. He does do a little.
Yeah.
And Sean made a comment here. He says he thinks that there's a detective that would be interested in the story that I told at the beginning of the Murder Shed segment here. And hey, Sean, if you know who that detective is, or anybody here, Oz, do you know what he's talking about?
No.
Well, if anybody knows who's looking, what detective that is, just give me his name, number, address, whatever. I'd like to come and meet the guy.
Steve knows people know something about it.
I don't know nothing about nothing about she.
So I guess I didn't really answer Todd's question that well. Let's see if he maybe ask another question. I don't know. I didn't address his question that well. So I'm sorry, Todd.
Oh, that's okay. Hey, maybe we can get to it a little bit more in depth next time. I do have another question, and it's actually one for Ben G. Actually, I can't find it anymore, so forget about it.
No, I saw
Steve,
it.
I know. Yeah, I know exactly what we're talking about. Ben, how would you define faith, or what's your definition of faith?
Yeah, I typically think of faith as right. We brought up the idea that faith is trust. I also use words as like faith, trust. Oh, what was the other one? Trust is a big one. Faith has to be something other than trust to me. So I can trust that my car is going to start in the morning. I don't think of that necessarily as like a faith that it's going to start. I understand completely that it might not. Faith is whatever to me, whatever that is, that gets you from kind of that 90 to 95% to 100. So when I'm building confidence in a claim, so if I'm 60% convinced that Jesus was a real person, if I was to say, I know Jesus exists, I would be using faith to make up that other 40%. That's the way that I think about that. And evidence is basically kind of like facts. I think of evidence as, okay, we have this observation, or we understand this thing about logic. And then evidence is just like you have a body of facts. So when I talk about like a scientific theory, I might say this scientific theory helps explain the evidence. And so when I think about God beliefs or God claims, I wonder how well the God claim explains that evidence.
Well, I'll tell you what. When I pick up my axe and I start chopping, I don't just take it on faith that it's sharp. I have a confidence that it's going to be sharp because I sharpened it. And I make sure to verify before I start, getting through the thicker parts.
And you can test it over and over. Every time you use it, you're testing it.
It's very testable. Yes, absolutely.
There you go.
What about you, Oz? Is there anything that you trust in? Maybe within that hashtag Pound Town. Is there anything trustable in there?
No, faith. Well, I'm not even gonna go there because that's part of my line of questions. So I'm not even gonna go there right now.
Fair enough. I got another question from Sean for Colton. If a practitioner of another religion had a revelation, would you say that they are wrong? How would you know?
It's a good question. If it's a personal revelation, then I wouldn't be able to prove them wrong or disprove them in a sense. I think I'd ask maybe what's your evidence for believing in that? I know that you had a personal revelation, right? But could that maybe be an influx of chemicals in your brain or inflow of chemicals in your brain? Like I would have to maybe ask for evidence of why he would believe in that certain God, and maybe if it was hallucination or something like that. I think I'd ask the same questions that maybe an atheist would ask me, essentially. Because I believe in the Christian God, and if he believed in another religion, then I would ask, well, why do you believe in that religion? Is there good reasons to believe in that religion, aside from mine? So I think that's the best answer I got.
And as a follow-up, just because I'm a jerk, have you questioned yourself and your own beliefs in the same way that you would question somebody else?
Of course, yeah, 100%. I think I said earlier in the show is that it's important to doubt. It's important to ask questions, and it's important to look at different theories because, in a sense, I think different theories is able to strengthen yours. So I think to fully understand God's revelation, you have to doubt in order to change. So,
sure. And I think I'm going to try
to be hard on myself.
Yeah, no, and that's a good thing to do. It's a good thing to be a little skeptical. So I've got one more question I'm going to throw out here from Dragons in Genesis. Whoops, it moved. Were you aware that Yahweh came from Kanati, polytheism? He had a father.
Canaanite
Oh
polytheism.
my gosh! Did I
Canaanite.
butcher that bad?
Canaanite polytheism. Okay.
Staying true
He
to
had
the
a
murder
father, a mother, and a wife. Well, I'd first have to ask you the question: where are you getting this from? Like, what's your sources? I'd love to see where you're getting this from. And second of all, if you're talking about how Jesus was maybe a story that was created based on other gods before him, then I would say that's pretty ridiculous. Here, let me give you a scenario. Let me give you an example. Okay, so I'm thinking of something, right, that that sailed from Europe to America and that was hit by an iceberg. What do you think? What do you think I'm thinking of, Murder Shed Steve? That was hit by an iceberg that sunk, and it was a ship.
Well, I would think right off the top of my head, the story that I'm familiar with would be the Titanic.
Okay, perfect, awesome.
But I've heard of another
Unfortunately,
one,
that's not.
and I
Yeah,
forgot
unfortunately,
the name of it.
unfortunately, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the book called the Story of the Futility. That was published in 1898, and that was 14 years before the Titanic. So if you ask that question, well, is Jesus based on different gods? Well, if there's similarities, that necessarily doesn't mean that he's based on a god or based on different gods that have happened before him. So for example, like I said, the futility. Well, the Titanic kind of basically happened the same thing as the futility, but
Right.
It would be pretty ridiculous to say that the Titanic didn't happen because 14 years prior, there was a book published that was similar to the story. So that's what I would say to it.
And the Simpsons have predicted just about everything.
So I'd ask him where your source is, first of all. And second of all, just because there's similarities between maybe Jesus Christ and different gods does not necessarily discredit his existence.
Sure.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Not necessarily. Yeah.
Not necessarily, exactly.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
I'm going to add that at the end of everything.
I pretty much
Not
already
necessarily.
I don't necessarily do it, but I pretty much always do that.
Not
Not
necessarily.
necessarily. Well, in any case,
Look at that, man.
thank you so much for stopping by the Murder Shed, where answers get questioned.
I love it.
Jorge.
Look
So,
at
I
that.
mean,
I'm already in a inside joke, man. On Tart, I'm already a part of an inside joke, man. Crazy.
Welcome.
So I need to,
Thank you.
to be able to get my composure and go back to a serious conversation. I need the outro so I can settle myself. Pasta, can you do that for me? Or we can pretend a phone call. That's cool too.
Somebody mute him.
So this is the Atheist Roundtable. We're going to be chatting with Oz today about his life story. We're going to go deep. We're going to be spreading his cheeks, delving into that ass. We'll be going deep. But no, that's not what we're doing.
No.
I thought we were doing like the full like Hollywood story. No?
No, we're not digging into my ass. No.
Oh, okay. I thought we were going into the deep ass dive, like a deep dive. No? Wrong channel?
Yeah, wrong. This ain't Pornhub.
Oh, God damn it.
We got to
Colton, what did I?
That wasn't
Good boy like me, a Catholic, man. Cover my ears.
that wasn't the transition that I was hoping for. But Murder Shed, Steve, as always, thank you for providing a great segment. A little pause for humor there in between the serious conversation. You will walk away and take care of the frozen bodies now. And Ben, as always, doing the damn thing. We appreciate you, man, and what you bring to the channel. And oh boy, that happened. That just happened. But Colton, I do have a few questions. I took some notes and I did some kind of some refresh the last couple of days on just my knowledge and understanding of Catholicism and what it is, what it looks like, how it operates, kind of differently than evangelical, kind of movement, which is what I grew up in and spent 30 plus years in, kind of the similarities and differences. And the first thing that I want to ask, and get this out of the way first. When, or I guess, how long have you been a Catholic?
So I'm what you call a cradle Catholic. So I grew up in the Catholic Church. I was born to a Catholic family. So I've been Catholic now for 20 years. I just turned 20. So
Okay. All right. Well, just so you know, you just used Apostle Mike's least favorite term for people that have been either lifelong believers or lifelong atheists. When I refer to him as a
Uh-oh.
cradle atheist, he's like, God, why do you call me that? So okay, so you've grown up in the Catholic Church, you know, grew up around it. I assume your family are Catholics as well. Is that correct?
Not my father. My mother is. Yeah, and my sister.
Okay, okay, and you can share as much as you're comfortable with sharing or not sharing. Where are you from? Where do you? Where
I'm
do you
from
stay?
LA. So I
Okay,
grew up in Venice Beach, and I moved out to the San Fernando Valley to go to high school. And I'm still in the San Fernando Valley. And I just finished community college, and I'm taking a gap year right now with all this quarantine stuff going on.
right.
Try to protect the family a little bit, and then I'm looking to go to my next 2 years, my last 2 years of college somewhere. So yeah.
Okay, and then being out there on the West Coast, not only do we have the virus, but there's the fires, the burning fires going on.
Yeah.
Are you and yours and the people you love and care about, everybody safe?
Yes, I'm thankful. I'm thankful that we're all safe. Fortunately, there's not. I'm in the city, so fires are around us. So of course we're seeing the effects in the sky and the smoke in the air, but nothing too serious. So I'm very thankful. Yeah, thank you for asking.
Okay, good, and we're glad to hear that. And thanks for sharing that. And my last question, kind of along those lines, I believe I heard in part of the conversation backstage is you're getting, or maybe you're looking into a school or some classes in Texas. Did I hear that right?
Yeah, so I'm looking into some universities in the South. I was looking into the University of Dallas, just for example, because I play basketball. So I'm a hooper. So I
Okay.
was maybe hoping to play some ball there. And then that's a Roman Catholic university. So I was hoping to also get a couple degrees in both biology and theology. That's kind of my plan right now. We'll see if it shifts at all, but that's what I'm hoping for.
Okay, I appreciate that. I'm from Indiana, so we are a basketball country.
Heck yeah, man. The Hoosiers, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So cool, man. No, and I appreciate you sharing that. So to dig back into some of the conversation you're having previously with Ben. So being a Catholic, the first question I want to ask you is what made you believe, Colton, that your God exists?
Okay, so I would say God reveals himself in I think a couple different ways. I think through personal revelation and public revelation. So personal revelation could be maybe through prayer or through experiencing him personally. And I'd like to say that I have. And of course, personally, that's why I believe. Of course, that's not good enough to maybe persuade anybody on the show. But he's also revealed himself publicly, which would maybe be like through the Bible or through miracles in that kind of sense. And as the Catholic Church likes to put it, is that God can be discovered in a sense through natural reason. Now, I'm not saying it's easy to maybe get to that point, but it is accessible and it's possible. And we see that because it's there because of God's loving nature and the fact that he wants a relationship with us. So in the same sense, we can't just sit back and ask God to just to make himself known. I think we have to search for him a little bit. And that's made through natural reason.
Okay, and I always like to try to review. That way, I stay on the same page as you. So, personal revelation, and then public revelation, which would be prayer or a miracle, and then
I would say so.
And then the Bible, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when it comes down to personal revelation, I think the next question I asked, then you brought up that personal revelations come or are attributed to the Mother Mary. Is that a accurate?
That would be, I think that would be more of a public revelation. That would be a public revelation. But I think I said that it's personal to me because it means a lot to me. So, but it would be maybe considered under the category of public revelation. Yeah.
Okay. And why is Mary important to your belief system?
Well, so as you know, growing up maybe in the evangelical fundamentalist Christianity community, you guys don't really care too much about Mary, or the community. I don't want to say care too much about Mary, but there's very different views between evangelical Christianity and the Catholic Church when it comes to Marian dogma and doctrine. Throughout the Bible, we were seeing that she plays a very important role in both Christ's life, and Christ wanted her to play a very important role in our life as well. So I would say in Genesis 3:15, in the proto-evangelium, as they call it, the first gospel, Adam and Eve, the creation story, of course, should be taken more in a literal sense rather than in a figurative sense rather than a literal sense. So when God talks to speaks to the snake, right, the serpent, he says that a new woman, a woman, and her seed will come and crush your head, and you will bruise his heel, right? So the new woman, right, the new Eve would be Mary. And the new Adam, of course, her seed would be Jesus Christ, right? So she plays a very important role in salvation history. And Jesus, right, when he was on the cross, according to the Gospels, wanted Mary, his mother, to play a very important role in our own personal lives. And she's done that through revealing herself through the apparitions, and all her power, all her abilities is really given to her by God. It's not through her self power or self righteousness. It's God has preserved her and protected her and allowed her to do such amazing miracles and things for us. So
okay, and so there are personal experiences for you, like the Mother Mary, in that story is more of a personal experience to you. You said that, but there are other personal experiences that other people could experience to find validity in this God claim.
Sure.
So what? Why are personal revelations a good enough reason for us to believe? Why is that a good enough? Just because you experience something internally, why is that a good enough reason for us to believe that?
I don't think that's a good enough reason for you to believe. If I said I do believe, I had a personal revelation, right? I believe that every single day, I'm having personal revelations. But of course, that's not really any evidence. As I said earlier, I would question the guy that said, well, I had a personal revelation from another God. I would say, well, what's the evidence to believe in that God? I'm not going to believe that maybe you saying I had a personal revelation could just be a result of chemicals in your brain making you feel all great, So of course, for me, that would be maybe enough, right? But for you or for anybody else or any non-believer, of course, that wouldn't be. And I would say, God would have to reveal himself, or you have to find God through public revelation. And hopefully by maybe finding him through public revelation, he could reveal himself personally to you, I would say.
Okay. And I'm glad you answered that the way you did it. And I think I got a more specific answer that I was looking for. So you claim that the what made you believe that your God exists was your own personal revelation or experience, whatever we want to put on there. Public revelation, which would be a miracle. We can get to that in a second, and then the Bible. So we have three things still that I don't know. I still don't know what convinces you that your God exists, because you still haven't told me what that is. What is a personal revelation? What, other than just saying healing, what is a public revelation? And what were those things that convinced you now that your God still exists?
Well, I have tons of points here. I don't want to take too much time, of me just reading off what I wrote. But is there anything specifically you'd like to hear? There's metaphysical, philosophical arguments. There's I could maybe even tell you a story about Mary and maybe give you some scientific facts that maybe would lead you to or point you to maybe something divine. I mean, it's really up to maybe how amount of time we have.
Well, and I'm not necessarily asking you to convince me right now. That could be on
No, of
offline.
course. No, of course.
Yeah, on an offline
Yeah.
conversation, if you know,
Yeah.
if you want to attempt to to do that, but I still
No,
don't
yeah,
know when you say, or I'm sorry, when I asked, you know, what made you believe that your God exists in personal revelation, public revelation, and in the Bible. To me, and being a former believer, those things don't hold weight, because that only means something to you. Your personal experience, your personal revelation only means something to you. And as a Bible believing Christian, we know that you tell me if I'm wrong, if Catholics aren't as sold on this part of the Bible or not, but part of your job is to go out and to go to all nations, preaching the gospel and so on and so forth. So there has to be some element that you can say, okay, this convinced me, and it needs to be able to convince other people. I think that's the root of it.
So let me back up and just say, right, I've always believed in God. So as a kid, I would say I had immature faith. I believed in God like I believed in Santa. I was 100% sure he was real. 100% sure, no doubt. And I didn't come across any evidence. I didn't need any evidence, right? Like I was a kid that grew up in a Catholic household that said God was real. I believed in him. I grew up and I figured out, well, there's good evidence not to believe in Santa. Okay. and I would say a few months ago, I started to question things. I said, am I a Catholic because I grew up as a Catholic, or am I Catholic because I truly follow God and I believe in God? Right. So I went on a search for God. And based on the evidence I found, I would say my immature faith has transitioned into mature faith, where as a kid, I could say I was 100% confident that God was real. Now I can't say I was 100% confident, because I understand that I can't be 100% confident of anything. But based on the evidence that there is, like I explained to Ben, metaphysical, philosophical arguments, right? That is truly based on science itself. I would say the evidence for the resurrection of Jesus and the validity of the Gospels and what the Bible represents. And also, thirdly, of course, Marian's apparitions and how that is also based on science as well, or maybe what science can explain. And I'm not saying that's evidence for God, but it could point to something divine. So with those three different things, right, I came to the conclusion, okay, well, I trust the evidence that's there, and God has revealed himself to me personally, which of course was the ribbon, the bow on top, it just sealed the deal for me. Right. But I wouldn't say that I believe in God solely based on my own personal revelation.
Okay. So let's contrast that. And then I'll make this point, and I want to, before we wrap, dig into faith, just a question or two about faith. You brought up the death and resurrection of the Christ. My argument is there is nowhere in that book, because we could talk about science all day, but there's nowhere in that book. There's nowhere in that book that actually supports, and we have no papers, no evidence, no anything, or witnesses that claim they actually saw the rising of a dead body. We just have people that claim to have seen a risen Christ. So when we say that we're basing our faith in a man that rose from the dead, his body came back to life after 3 days of being dead. And if you don't know what that looks like, I can tell you, because my dad's been in the mortuary business for 20-some years. A 3-day-old body is not a pretty thing. And then even Mary Magdalene didn't even know who he was and thought he was a gardener. When he popped up. So getting all that, and I'm not even going to ask you about the historicity of Christ. That's not. I'm just saying that there's a lot of things when we get into science, biology, artifacts, all that. Like there's also so many things that prove or at least suggest, not prove, but suggest otherwise. So that's why even the Bible, we can't use the Bible to prove the Bible. That would go back into a circular reason.
Well, I'm not saying we use the Bible to prove the Bible, but I'm saying that the Gospels are historical evidence for Jesus Christ's resurrection. Now, I have a question just for you, Oz, real quick.
Okay.
So, do you believe that Hannibal in 218 BC crossed the Alps on elephants during the Second Punic War?
I don't know.
Okay, well, maybe look into that, and that's a part of history, right? And I have to ask you, well, why do you believe that? I mean, that sounds like a fairy tale to me, but it was written down, and it's historical evidence that it did happen. So the Gospels, I mean, I could go on all night and talk about how the Gospels are historical evidence, and I wish I had the time to do so. So hopefully, I'll maybe come back one time and do it again. But the Gospels are historical evidence, and the fact that it does show that there was no body in the tomb. Right. So what is more probable? What are the options? Right. Hallucinations. Right. Stealing the body. Right. Well, the most probable in all the evidence that I have or that I researched, the most probable would be, in fact, his resurrection. As crazy as that may sound.
Okay. And
So,
yeah, we can. Even if it's just offline, I'd love to have that conversation with you, because that's actually the reading of the gospel is actually one of the things that turned me into an atheist. So,
dude,
let's get into.
I'd love to, man. I'd love to.
Let's get into faith before we have to wrap here. So, Ben talked to you about your confidence level. As far as scale of 0 to 100. I can't remember exactly what his scale was, but what your confidence level was that you knew that your God exists. And then you at one point said, well, anything, say I'm gonna make up arbitrary numbers right now, but say we're at 70 out of the 100. You said that anything in between the 70 and the 100, faith then makes that up, right? That gets you to that 100. Was that did I hear that correctly?
I mean, the way you put it, I would say no. I think honestly, I take that back, right? Because I would say I'm putting trust in the evidence that is there, and I will never say that if you took something away, that would decrease my faith, and that would maybe put it down from 95 to 70%, let's say. I wouldn't say I would use my faith to make up that 30% or to make up that 25% to get me back up to the 95, 100% range and say, oh, I believe in God, right? I would be very doubtful if I was at 70% if something happened where it brought me down, 20 ticks. So I don't think that I meant that I make it up with faith, but that I use faith, or in other words, just trust, that I trust and have faith into the evidence that's already present for God's existence.
Okay,
hopefully that sums it up better.
Okay, so no, thank you. And faith, and thank you, Pastor, for putting up there. So faith, complete trust or confidence in someone or something. This restores one's faith in politicians as an example. Number 2, strong belief in God or in the doctrines of a religion based on spiritual apprehension rather than proof. Example, dogma, dogmas. So what I have to ask there is in that framework and trying to find a pathway to a truth claim, is faith is it a reliable source? Is it a reliable tool to get us to truth?
That's a good question. I would say yes and no. I would say everything needs a little faith, right? Even science can't justify science itself, right? Science is full of assumptions, right? So you have to have faith in certain things. I mean, Jesus tells us that we need faith, right? Faith is the most important part about believing in God, right? So the faith is crucial in a person's belief in God, but I wouldn't say that it's by itself is good enough to justify maybe to someone else that God is real because I believe in him, but Jesus says that in order to enter the kingdom, we must become like children. We must have childlike faith. And that's kind of going back to what I was saying. Like, I believed in God 100% and I didn't need any evidence. And this kind of gateways into the saying, right? True faithful people don't need evidence. And people who have no faith whatsoever, no amount of evidence will ever be enough. Now, I'm not saying that you don't have any faith, or your other people on the show don't have any faith. Like, that's not what I'm saying. But it gets into the idea that people who have true faith, they don't need evidence. I'm not saying that's for me. That's my personal belief, and saying that I don't need evidence, right? I question a lot of things because I was honestly scared that there wasn't evidence. But like I said, I went on a little journey, right? Well, researched stuff and whatnot. And now I'm putting faith into the evidence that's already present. So we can't be 100% sure about anything, right? So we have to weigh what's more probable. It's either two ways: God exists or God doesn't. What's more probable right now? The evidence is leading to the view that God is more probable that he exists.
Okay, so let's do a little exercise here. So you're and for the record, it does not offend me because you're 100% right. I do not operate in faith. I don't take anything on faith. You know, I
wouldn't say that. I mean, you go ahead.
No, I like even the, you know, the one that people love to use. Well, also when you get in your car and you start your car, you have faith your car is going to start. No, I actually have demonstrable evidence that suggests that my car is going to start. Like that's not faith. That's just a reliance in the fact that I've repeatedly done it. We can test it. We can observe it. It's happened over and over and over again. You know, that's not faith. That's just reliability. You know, but so Colton, if you know, operating in an ultimate faith, which is what I would say that you are operating in from what you have just laid out for me. What if, and this is just playing, like I said, this is an exercise and a hypothetical. What if we did not have the Bible, and what if we did not have religious organizations like the Catholic Church that we know today? Okay, but this God still existed. Just operating on faith, how would you know that this God existed if you did not have this book or this organization to steer you and tell you that this God exists?
Well, Aristotle believed in God.
Okay, but
I'm not in the same sense.
But I'm asking Colton.
By natural reason.
Okay, like what?
By natural reason. The metaphysical proofs that unfortunately I don't have too much time to talk about, but the same conclusion that Aristotle made, right? That there has to be some type of God. He didn't worship God, right? The Bible didn't exist, right? I mean, there's no, you know, maybe personal revelation going on at that time, right? But he believed that there was a God. He just chose not to worship him because he didn't feel the need to. Okay. So I would maybe still believe in God based on the fact of natural reason.
Okay. And do you think you still believe in a Bible God, a Catholic God?
I mean, it would be hard to say. That's a pretty big hypothetical. I mean,
I'm trying to drive something home because just to save us time, there's a lot to be said about the text and how much weight we put into the text and the organizations that run these establishments, right? And so does it really come down to a faith belief that we really have faith and trust that God exists, or are we really depending on the text and what, you know, priests or pastors or whatever, you know, refer to these people as, that it hinges on that. And that's what I was trying to drive down to that. If we strip all that away, is that God still there? And is it still the same God that we think it is?
Yeah, God is still there, right? But I mean, of course, I don't know how it would prove to you that it would be the Abrahamic God, right? I mean, if I didn't know Jesus existed, I mean, how was I supposed to know that Jesus existed and that he was God? Like I couldn't prove to you that there was an Abrahamic God. All right, but I could still use reason to say that there is a first mover, a first cause, that there is a God. So hopefully that answers your question.
Okay. Well, like I said, it's a hypothetical. There's not an exact correct or incorrect answer to it. But the whole point in that you know, in that exercise or that hypothetical is, you know, we have a lot of this construct that's built around us that suggests that this is the God that we should serve. Just like if you grew up in India or you grew up in the Middle East, you probably wouldn't be a Catholic. I probably wouldn't have been a Christian. We probably would have grown up, you know, Muslim or Buddhist or Hindu or things like that.
That would be a little bit of the genetic fallacy. But yes, I mean sometimes that would happen, right?
And I'm not here to debate you. I'm just saying you statistically we can look at it, and that's, you know, those are facts. But before we wrap, Colton, I always like to give a chance. I know you when yourself or other guests come on, you get bombarded before we wrap. Is there anything that you would like to ask myself or any of the rest of the crew?
No. I mean, Any questions that I have for you guys?
Yeah.
Let's say. Oh, okay. Let me ask you this. What would make you believe in God? I mean, I think that's a good question.
Sure. What would it take for somebody actually posed this through a TikTok comment, and I loved this. They said, if you sat down, if the Christian God could put you in a room and sit down with you and talk with you, would you become a Christian? I said, well, I'd have no choice but to accept the fact that God exists. If I believed that was my experience, I would certainly believe that God exists if he sat down and put whatever confidence I needed. And the other response is, well, God would know what it would take to convince me. I can honestly say that I'm searching and that I'm open. I feel like I'm open and willing to accept new information. I could be wrong. I could have substantial biases that I'm not aware of, but there I am.
That's pretty good. Thank you. That was good. That was awesome.
Steve?
Yeah, if I'm going to weigh in on this, I'd have to say, I think that if we could come across some evidence that is testable, repeatable, verifiable, and pretty much undeniable, then I would believe in a God. But it would still take some work to get to a specific God, because there's been so many God claims that we'd have to nail down exactly what God that was. But I think if we could empirically provide evidence that God exists, I could be convinced. However,
but so scientific evidence is what you're looking for, empirical evidence.
Essentially, yeah.
But don't you agree there's certain things in the world that you accept without science?
No.
I mean, there's certain things that science can't prove and you accept.
Nope.
What about logic and mathematical truths?
They're abstract, but
What about metaphysical truths, like how other minds exist or how the external world is real?
Ooh,
I mean, you
there's
believe in
the
that,
point.
but science can't prove it.
Yeah, I don't believe in it.
Okay, you don't believe the external world is real?
The external world? You mean outside of me?
Metaphysical truths?
Oh, yeah.
Like
Yeah.
how do you know the external world isn't actually 5 minutes old with an appearance of old age?
Here's the thing. I accept that I'm having an experience. I accept that to a certain extent I exist because I think therefore I am, right? So to a certain extent I am a conscious something that's having an experience, and that experience is also shared by other conscious beings around me. And those are the things that can be verified. So I have sufficient reason to believe that the outside world exists. However, I don't assert that I know 100%, for 100% fact that the outside world exists, or even that I exist. Okay. I'm not
Let me ask you.
I don't believe in absolute certainty.
What about morality and ethical values and statements of value? What do you think about that? I mean, you can't prove that by science.
That's a whole rabbit hole, but I do believe that morality.
I know, but I'm saying there's certain things. But I'm saying there's certain things that we accept as a species, right, as humans, right, that cannot be proved by science. So for you to say that I need scientific evidence to believe in God, well, I mean, science can't prove God or disprove God. So evidence is really just to make a claim more probable, right? So I can give you other evidence to maybe make God's existence more probable, but I mean, like scientific evidence, you're just saying you're calling game right then and there, because there's many things that we accept that can't be proved by science is what I'm trying to say.
So Colton, I'll make this real simple, and I know a few of the videos even, and just going back and refreshing, like I said, on Catholicism. Catholics say that Catholicism is simply at its roots all about love, right? It's all about love. So here's what I want. I won't talk for anybody else. Here's what I want. This God loves me, and I want to know him. Mm-hmm. And he knows exactly what it's going to take for me to acknowledge him. So here's what I want. I want to shake his hand and I want to hug him. That's what I want. And if he loves me, he's going to do that.
But God is not a bearded man in the sky, though. He's not going to come down and shake your hand. That's not what God is. He's a transcendent moral being. He's everywhere. He's a spirit.
Well, but you asked, what's it going to take? That's my answer.
So wait, but you're calling game right there, because God is not a bearded man in the sky that's going to come down and shake your hand.
He's all powerful. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, but like he's not a man. He's a spirit.
Did he not come down as a man in Jesus?
Yeah, but I mean, do you believe in Jesus? Do you believe in that Jesus was God? Like, do you believe in Jesus?
So if he exists, he could do it, though, is my point.
I don't. Jesus. I mean, God is infinite and all powerful and all knowing. So I don't know what he can do. I mean, he can do what's logically probable. I mean, but again, let me ask you this: if someone came down that shook your hand and said, "I am God," why would you believe that's God?
Why would you believe
that's maybe just?
That's a great question.
Why wouldn't you believe that's maybe just an alien? You're having a hallucination. Why would you believe that's God?
Great question. Can you tie that to the people who saw Jesus and who saw Jesus after his death? Can you apply that same question?
Yes, because so I think you have to understand the Jewish belief at the time. The fact that they believed that the resurrection, that no one would resurrect until the end times, until the end of the world, until the final resurrection.
Now, how did the Jewish belief at the time influence their perception of Jesus and the claim that Jesus came back from the dead?
Well, because it would be kind of the idea that like people have seen maybe like Elvis, for example. It's like, did they believe that he came back from the dead, or did they believe that he never died?
I'm not a physicist. I think Jesus may have lived. When I gave that example of 60%, that's about where I am. I'm more than willing to grant that Jesus was a real person, and I'm interested in your claim. So the standard of evidence that you have for now, how do we know that somebody came back from the dead? There are many other natural explanations, and I'm wondering why it's more probable that Jesus was resurrected.
Sure. So you said there's many other explanations. For example, what would be an explanation?
You gave it a second ago. So if I made the claim that Jesus was across the table from me and was God, and I know we may be wrapping up. I'm sorry, but if God was across the table from me, how would I know that was God? We can ask the same question of the people who claimed to see Jesus, and that's my point.
Well, and I'm going to say before we wrap, we have a couple minutes before we wrap. And I actually loved, that's why I smiled, Colton, when you said that, because I will now assert the same thought process or question to your having a personal revelation or personal experience. That how do you know that it was your God? So it's that's the thing that I'm trying to get you to see, that we can apply that to everything. You know, it just.
No, but
just
I'm saying that I don't only believe in God because maybe he's revealed himself personally to me, right? Like I pray to the Christian God, and of course, maybe other people pray to another God and they get their wishes answered. So that's not good evidence, and I'm not providing that as evidence, right? Like I said, there's many other I would say evidence that I'd love to share. If for example, Ben, you're talking about Jesus. How do we know that he resurrected? Well, I have tons of evidence, right? But I'd be here for another hour or so.
I
wish I could share.
I think there's evidence, and then we have theories about which either explain it or not.
Of course, and I think personally, each person has to look at it, all the evidence combined, right, and say what's more probable. Right, I'm looking at what's more probable. See, I look at the Jesus situation. What's more probable? Well, I look at everything else and I see the resurrection to be more probable, and I have evidence to support that claim. Of course, you don't have to believe that. Right, but and when it comes to God existing, what's more probable? Is it probable that God doesn't exist, or is it probable that God does? The evidence is leading to Hey,
Colton, before we wrap it, I hate to interrupt you, but I do want to ask this question before we wrap it up. So one of our loyal viewers has a question for you. Why does Jesus still have wounds after he is resurrected? He didn't get a new body?
That's an awesome question. So this is what I would say. He's God. Like you said, Oz, he can do anything you want. He could do anything he wants. He could have a new body if he wanted to. But he chose to have wounds. And why I say that is because why the Christian God is different is because he came down to suffer with us. He came down to understand what it's like to suffer as a human. Right? Because evil, sin, suffering, that was foreign to his nature. How is he supposed to bestow grace upon people, right, if he didn't know how to suffer, right? So he chose instead. So another great argument against God maybe would be like evil in the world, right? Well, the Christian God isn't just sitting back like this and watching everybody suffer. No, he chose to come down to choose the most excruciating path, right? Crucifix. That's where the word comes from. Excruciating. The most excruciating path in order to suffer like other humans. And those wounds on his glorified body represent what that means, what suffering is. Represents that as Christians, we become a living sacrifice, just how Jesus became a living sacrifice for the Father, the living sacrifice for the world. Now it's our choice to look at him and see that. And he's a representation of that, of how we should become a living sacrifice as well. I think that would be the best, maybe Catholic answer. I mean, theologically, I think that would be the best answer.
Yeah.
All right. And so we'll wrap. And Colton, I'd love to have you back on because there's tons of other conversations here to have. But I would say that if God is coming down to earth in flesh, he probably, if he created humans and he created suffering, he should probably know both. He shouldn't have to learn what suffering feels like.
He didn't create suffering. He didn't create suffering. Suffering was a result of the freedom that he created. Just to clear something up.
We'll have that conversation a different time because the Abrahamic gods love suffering. They love their creation to suffer, and we'll jump into that on the next time. But for everybody that's been in the chat, you guys have had great conversations tonight. Colton, we'll have you back on and we'll continue that conversation. Ben killed it tonight. Murder Shed Steve, you always kill it. And then Pasta Mike be behind the scenes, always rocking and rolling, making us look sexy. And as always, thank you guys. We got some great shows coming up the rest of this weekend and next weekend. Check us out. We are the Atheist Roundtable. Peace out.
Bye, everybody.